The ford at Saltpans lay quiet beneath a milky dawn, the rising sun no more than a pale smear behind mist. Sandor Clegane stood on the shattered parapet of an old stone bridge, one booted foot on a toppled crenel as though it were a corpse he meant to crush. The river below whispered over broken pilings, carrying ruined banners from battles no one cared to remember. Blood had rinsed from the fabric weeks ago, but the stink lingered in the mud, sweet and metallic, half-masked by the brine of the tidewater. Sandor was used to rot by now. Rot was honest. What troubled him was the girl sitting cross-legged behind him, sharpening a dagger that looked far too eager in her small hands. Arya Stark's whetstone sang in patient strokes. Every so often she paused to test the edge with a thumb, quick and light. She might have been no more than a skinny orphan in patched leathers, save for the hard glint in her gray eyes. Wolf's eyes, her dead father had once called them. Sandor had seen wolves caged and wolves cornered. This one was neither. She was the sort of pup that gnawed her own paw off to slip a trap, then came back to bury teeth in the hunter's throat. He spat over the parapet and watched the gambit vanish in froth. "You done reciting that damned list yet, girl?" "I never recite it," Arya replied without looking up. "I remember," he grunted. "You remember too much. Memory's a dog that bites its own tail. Won't feed you, won't warm you, but God's help you if you try to kick it." She sheathed the dagger, rose, and brushed silt from her knees. "The mountain's on it," she said. "Your brother." Sandor's scarred cheek twitched, the purple ridges tugging his lip into a snarl. "My brother died when he turned 12 and I smelled the burning of my own flesh. Whatever walks in Gregor's skin now is a sack of sins with a sword." "Then you'll help me kill the sack," Arya said. He barked a laugh that held no mirth. "Help you? Girl, I'm half a corpse myself." "Half's enough," she said, meeting his gaze. "Half a corpse to kill a dead man." For a long moment only the gulls answered her. Sandor worked his jaw, tasting iron where an old molar worked loose. He could have left her in any village from Harrenhal to Maidenpool, could have traded her to Freys or sellsword bands or the Silent Sisters for new coin and old wine. Yet here she stood, unchained, unbegged, and unafraid, a stark cub with a kill list for a lullaby. He felt the weight of her small hope settle on his shoulders like mail, unwanted, undeniable. "You hunt the mountain," he rasped, "and the realm will hunt you. Cersei's dogs, Tyrell swords, fry traps, half the bloody country's his leash." "Your face scares dogs," Arya said. "Mine doesn't. We get close, I slip in. He dies." He almost smiled. "You think Gregor Clegane sleeps without armor? We'll gut him awake." He ran a hand over his burned cheek, the skin ridged like melted wax. If there was a seven hells left to fear, Sandor could not name it. He had buried fear in the ashes of his childhood, fed it to the blaze that ate his flesh. What remained was ache, and beneath the ache, a throb of something colder, something like purpose. Perhaps the wolf girl felt it too. "South," he said at last. "King's Road's thick with krakens and lions, but the salt pans have their own roads. River runners, smugglers' paths, holes in the crown's purse." He pointed eastward, where the dawn brightened over low hills. "We ride before the tide turns. If we're lucky, we'll outrun the queen's justice and beat her steel to Gregor's throat." Arya's smile was small and hard. She whistled, and a shaggy gelding ambled from the trees. Sandor whistled too, lower but no less sure, and Stranger snorted in reply. They saddled in silence, save for the rasp of leather and the faint sigh of the sea wind. When they rode, it was not as knight and maid, nor as captor and captive. They rode as two blades hammered in the same fire, their edges yet untested against the greatest anvil in Westeros, Gregor Clegane. In the Red Keep of King's Landing, meanwhile, Queen Cersei Lannister traced the rim of a goblet with a lacquered nail. The wine within was arbor gold, smooth as a lie and twice as warm. But neither vintage nor velvet cushions eased the knots in her shoulders tonight. Below the arched balcony, the city lay restless, torches swaying like embers upon a black sea. She tasted smoke in the wind. Ruin whispered on every street, though the war had waned. Ser Robert Strong stood behind her, monstrous in white plate, visor sealed. They said nothing passed those hollow eyes. Some claimed nothing remained within the helm at all. Cersei knew better. She had demanded a champion who could not die, and Qyburn had fashioned her one from death itself. Yet even marble giants cast cracks in moonlight, and in the queen's fevered dreams the mountains sometimes knelt, then lifted her by the throat, just as he had lifted Prince Oberyn's spear-gouged skull before the cheering mob. She shivered. Fear was a luxury she allowed herself only in solitude. But she knew its smell, copper-sharp, and tonight it perfumed the throne room walls like incense. Enemies crept where banners once fluttered. The small council whispered loyalty yet loaded ships with gold. The faith kept quiet only while the High Septon fattened on coin and sin. And somewhere beyond the city, the realm's wolves had not forgotten. Stark hearts beat still in the cold. With a flick of her wrist she dismissed the thought, and nearly spilled her wine as Pycelle shuffled into the balcony, robes billowing like tattered sails. "Your Grace," the Grand Maester wheezed. "A raven from the twins. Ser Gregor's presence is requested by Lord Walder to oversee certain matters of discipline." Cersei narrowed her eyes. Walder Frey wanted the mountain to cow his own brood, no doubt. Walder had more heirs than teeth and trusted fear more than walls. Yet sending Robert Strong northward posed risks. The roads riddled with insurgency, and Qyburn's arts remained half-formed. What if rumors grew? What if that abomination were unmasked before her designs bore fruit? She sucked in a breath, stirring the wine. "Tell the old goat my brother is the crown's shield. The realm chews on rebels still." Pycelle nodded, jowls trembling. "And the matter of the Hound, your Grace?" Reports place Sandor Clegane alive on the Trident's eastern banks, traveling with a girl thought to be Arya Stark. The goblet stilled. "Alive?" she echoed softly. "As a shadow at dusk," the Maester said, bowing his head. "For merchants saw him near salt pans. 2 housewives at Maidenpool swear the same, though such rumors breed like rats." Cersei turned to Robert Strong. Steel face met her stare without blinking. Gregor had once sworn never to let the Hound escape him again. But that oath belonged to a mortal man. This new thing kept no oaths save hers. "Arya Stark," she murmured. "Wolf cub in league with a dog. They must be running north." Her lips twisted. "Very well, if the Hound lives, he's trespassed his queen's mercy. Let the harpy bleed him dry. Send word to Riverrun, to Harrenhal, to every remaining fry. Sandor Clegane is a traitor. His head buys royal favor. And the girl." Cersei tasted a pulse along her neck. "A girl grows into a woman. Women bear heirs or wield daggers. Bring her to me alive. A Stark prize will keep the north cowed." She dismissed Pycelle with a flick. When he staggered back into the hall, she turned once more to her silent knight. "Find your brother, Ser Gregor," she whispered into the helm's blank visor. "Find him before he spoils my game." Robert Strong did not nod, but something beneath the armor seemed to hum at her command, a faint vibration like wasps trapped in iron. The trident wound silver through the lowlands, cold enough to numb, swift enough to drown. Sandor urged stranger through a ford at dawn, water frothing against the destrier's knees. Arya clung behind him, cloak drawn tight, but when they gained the opposite bank she dismounted without waiting for his hand. She shook droplets from her hair as a cat shakes rain and walked the shallows searching for prints. "Hoof marks," she announced. 5 days old, iron-shod. Big horse. Big men ride big horses, Sandor muttered, scanning the treeline. Could be Frey outriders, could be Sellswords, could be my bloody brother. He swung to dismount, joints creaking like rusted gates. "Strip the firewood quick. We cook, we ride. Roads long to Maidenpool. We should head inland," Arya said, scraping moss from a fallen cedar bough. "They'll expect us on the coast." "They expect fools to run from their shadows," he countered. Kingsroads watched gold cloaks prowl the crossways. But smuggler's favor places law forgets. and smugglers' boats don't ask names. She grunted agreement. Still, her gaze lingered westward where hills rolled like sleeping bears, grass tufts golden under the rising sun. Somewhere beyond lay Harrenhal's burnt bones, Riverrun in siege, the twins where rain once washed red from banquet stones. You think the phrase will care? They broke guest right and never paid. They'll care if the gold's stacked high enough. Arya cracked a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Then let's make them earn it. They burned driftwood for smoke, letting the gray plume curl skyward as bait. If hunters lurked nearby, the promise of stew and weak ale might draw them. Sandor chewed salted pork, watched the trees, and told stories no one would call songs. He spoke of Gregor's first kill. A stable boy's pony kicked his brother, and the mountain opened its belly with a pitchfork, laughing as the foal spilled red. He spoke of a skull crushed like a melon on a courtyard flagstone, of a girl taken screaming into a tower room and never seen again. His words were dry as ash, and Arya listened without blinking. When he finished, she whispered, "I'm glad he's on my list." "Lists won't save you," Sandor said. "Only steel will. I have steel. And rage. Enough." He studied her small fists, clenched on her knees. Rage burns quick. Fire dies. A killer needs something colder. He tapped the bastard sword across his lap. "This blade's called nothing. It wants nothing. It just bites." Arya's expression softened. Strangely, "My father said the same of ice. A sword must be part of the arm that swings it." "Humph. Your father lost his arm, then his head." He regretted the words the instant they fled. Her face closed like a shutter. She stood and walked to the river, stone still for a long while. Stranger's ears flicked. Sandor's hand fell to the hilt. He heard it too. A rustle beyond the reeds, soft but hurried. Before he could call, 3 men burst onto the bank, crossbows leveled. River raiders, gaunt and sallow, bits of mismatched armor dangling like fish scales from ragged clothes. "Easy," the lead rogue croaked, sighting down his quarrel at Sandor's chest. "Big man, small girl, 2 purses, 3 mounts. Hand over the mare and your coin. We'll leave you the big horse for pity." Sandor rose slow, towering. Iron rang as he drew steel. The rogue swallowed. "Don't be thick. We're 5. "I count 3, Sandor growled. 2 more in the willows. I like ambling targets." He advanced, sword twirling once. The raiders flinched, triggered crossbows. Quarrels hissed, struck dirt where he had been a heartbeat before. Stranger reared, hooves lashing. Sandor closed the gap, blade singing. The first man died before screaming. The second managed half a curse before Stranger's iron shoe caved his ribs. The third tried to flee, but Arya stepped from the reeds, dagger glinting, and opened his thigh. He toppled, squealing. Sandor kicked away the crossbow and pressed steel to the rogue's throat. 2 more, eh? Going. When the man hesitated, Sandor ground the edge against flesh. "They can watch you bleed empty, then I'll carve their guts for bait." The rogue sobbed. No others. Elite." "So you did." Sandor lifted the blade, then plunged it through the man's eye, pinning him to mud. Blood bubbled, hot and bitter in the cool morning. He wiped the sword on the corpse's jerkin. Arya crouched over the dead. She rifled pouches, found a pouch of stinking walnuts, a tarnished brooch, a coil of thin rope. Of coin, only a scattering of pennies. She pocketed them without a word. "What did we learn?" Sandor asked, sheathing. "Next time," she said. "I shoot first." He snorted, but pride tugged at the corner of his mouth. Together they dragged the bodies to the current, weighting ankles with stones. When the last corpse slipped beneath, Arya cast 1 walnut after it. "For the stranger," she said. Sandor grunted. "For what good it'll do him." They reached Maidenpool under a harvest moon. The port had once been pretty, all white limestone courts and rose brick villas. Now soot stained the harbor walls, and the taverns rang with knives more than laughter. Sandor found a stable of ill repute, bribed the hostler to keep Stranger watered and unremarked. then led Arya through alleys to a green-tiled bathhouse whose owner owed him a favor dating back to the War of the Five Kings. Inside, aromatic steam curled above pools flecked with rose petals, the scent meant to mask mildew. A heavy-set woman emerged from the mist, hair wrapped in a scarlet turban. "Sandor Clegane," she greeted, voice lilting like a Dornish lute. "Your face grows no prettier." "Yours either, Mara," he rasped. "This is my girl." Arya bristled. "I'm not his girl," Sandor cut in. Mara's eyes narrowed but asked no questions. Smugglers thrived on half-truths. "In the kitchen," Mara said. "Serve girls changed shift an hour past. No eyes there." The kitchen was dank, the hearth banked low. Mara poured watered wine, produced a map scrawled on greasy parchment. "2 sails leave on Morrow's tide for King's Landing," she said, tapping a finger. "Saltstone and Dove's Wing. First's captained by a bastard of Driftmark, loyal as a leaky bucket. Second's a Pentoshi galley flagged as grain trade, but rumor says she ferries whispers for Varys's little birds." "Neither suits," Sandor growled. "I need a keel heads inland. River runs shut." Mara traced a canal north of the bay. "Blackfish holds. But you could chase the Tomato Road to Maidenvault, then hire a flat-bottom skiff up the Trident's Forks. Quiet, slow, unseen." "Too slow," Arya said. "Gregor's already marching." "Marches on whose command?" Sandor asked her. "On his own hunger," she hissed. "That's all he hears." Sandor looked to Mara, who shrugged. "Talk says the mountain guards the queen's bastard child. Some monster babe Qyburn birthed from pigskin and magic." She spat. "Fools chatter. But I know this. A column in Clegane livery left King's Landing 3 nights past. 20 riders, 3 wagons. 1 wagon draped in gold cloth, heavy as sin. Where bound? North by northwest, they said." She flashed teeth. "But they said it quiet." Sandor felt his throat tighten. "Riverrun passes north by northwest. So does the twins," Mara said. "And the fist of the first men if you keep riding. But no fool carts gold to wildling country. My coins on Lord Fry hosting a tourney of terrors." Arya's dagger tip traced the map like a quill. "Then we ride at first light." "Then they'll see you," Mara warned. "Gregor's men sit all roads. The Queen's ravens circle. She set a bounty on the Hound's head." Sandor barked a laugh. "Let them circle. I'll cut their wings." Mara poured him another cup. "You'll need more than steel. You'll need ghosts. Travelers whisper of a brotherhood reborn on the riverlands. Outlaws in hoods of red. They bleed the phrase at every ferry crossing." "The brotherhood without banners?" Arya whispered, jaw tight. "They died at the twins," Sandor muttered. "Some say Lady Stoneheart leads them now," Mara said, voice lower. "A corpse with a new scar and hate enough for 10 lifetimes." Arya's face drained white, but fury lit her eyes. "Cailin?" she breathed, so soft Sandor barely heard. He slammed the cup down. "Ghost stories. Dead don't walk." Mara's smile was thin. "Tell that to the mountain you chase." They left before dawn broke, cloaks wrapped tight and heads bowed. Mara's last gift was a sealed letter stamped with a sigil Sandor did not know. 2 crossed oars beneath a gull. "Show this at Saltmarsh Fork," she said. "A man named Tarl owes me a life. He'll see you upriver faster than wind." Outside the bathhouse, the streets slept under a hush, but from every shutter Sandor felt eyes. The Queen's bounty stirred hunger fiercer than famine. Stranger pawed the cobbles, eager to bolt. Sandor mounted, Arya leapt behind, and they rode down the western gate before the sky blushed. In the hush of leaving, Sandor recalled a prayer he once heard a septon murmur over a dying night. "Let the father judge his sins, let the mother forgive his trespass, let the warrior lend his courage." Sandor did not pray, but in the clatter of hooves he found himself mouthing the last line. Because courage, he reckoned, was all the 7 ever gave him, and all the 7 ever dared take away. On the windswept bridges of the twins, beneath banners of flayed men and leering trout, Lord Walder Fry fumed. Gregor Clegane towered beside him, helm off, scarred brow like cracked stone. Walder's daughters and grandsons kept a nervous distance. "Lannisters promised you days ago," Walder spat. "My sons fight over crumbs. Roose Bolton mutters of rights, and the Blackfish mocks me from a bloody bathtub. Yet here I am feeding your brute 5 whole hogs a day." Gregor said nothing. He chewed a strip of pork, grease shining on his gauntlets. Walder wiped spittle from his chin. "A feast for the eyes, this." He gestured to the courtyard, where caged prisoners dangled above dogs. Rebels, oathbreakers, a pair of stonemill smiths who forged arms for the Tullus. Pick one for sport. Show the realm the mountain still rides for the crown. Gregor swallowed. "Sport later," he rumbled. "Hunt first." Walder blinked. "Hunt? Hunt what?" "Dog." Walder's wheezing laugh turned cough. "Your brother? He's dead or fled south." Gregor's eyes, flat as river stones, fixed on the north gate. "Dead men walk." Walder felt a chill. "Then kill him and be done. Cersei wants results." Gregor hefted a steel-shod mace, its head bristling spikes. "When next I swing," he said, voice like a tomb door, "the world ends for him." Walder's breath fogged in the morning air. He began to realize that hosting a monster was far easier than leashing one. Sandor and Arya reached Saltmarsh Fork by mid-afternoon. Tarl proved a sinewy riverman with black ink tattoos winding up his neck. He accepted Mara's letter with a grimace, then nodded toward a narrow-keeled barge moored among reeds. "Runs shallow," he said, voice rasping like rope. "North branch to the Red Fork, south branch to the Black, but we'll cut west through the Shivering Stream. Less watch, more silt. Hard on the pole." "Harder on the watchers," Sandor said. They pushed off under waning sun. The barge slid like a shy snake through cattails. Water bugs skipped from the wake. Dragonflies glittered green in slanting light. Arya perched at the bow, eyes scanning, needle tucked within her sleeve. Sandor crouched near the stern, hands on crossguard, listening to river song. It was a tune older than kings, older than war, carrying secrets in every eddy. Somewhere in that song, he fancied, lay the echo of a boy's scream, the echo that birthed the man he became. Night settled veil dark. Tarl poled with silent strokes, reading. Stars where the channel twisted. They passed crumbling watchtowers abandoned since Riverrun fell, their torch sconces cold. Yet somewhere beyond the tree-lean wolves howled, and Arya's shoulders lifted with the sound, as though distant kin called her name. At the second hour past moonrise, reflection shattered. Arrows rippled the water ahead. Tarl cursed and ducked. Sandor shoved Arya flat, drew sword. Figures rose among reeds on both banks, torches hooded in crimson glass. One stepped forward, hood hanging loose. A man tall and gaunt with a gray beard and a sigil sewn upon his chest, a skull crowned by a circle of thorns. "The river remembers," he called. "Gold for the river lords, blood for the traitors. Brotherhood," Arya whispered. Sandor felt her tremble, but not with fear. He sheathed slowly, lifted empty palms. "Passage only," he shouted. "No lord's coin, no fry tithe." The gaunt man laughed. "All coin's a lord's coin. Toss your purse." Arya rose, dagger glinting. "Thuras?" she called. "Lem? Is that you?" The man's torch tilted, light catching his hollow cheeks. "Those names are dead," he said. "We are Justice Newforged." He lifted an iron chain looped through his belt. 6 severed ears dangled, green-gray. "Freys pay toll in flesh now." Sandor spat. "You've lost your taste for true meat. Freys bleed easy. Try steel instead." The man raised a fist. Bowstrings creaked. But before he could drop it, a whisper cut the night. A bolt struck his torch, shattering glass, sparks bursting. In sudden dark confusion, Sandor leapt, hauling Arya over the gunwale. They plunged waist-deep in river muck, pushed through reeds, strangers' reins clutched in Sandor's fist. Tarl shouted curses behind as arrows hissed overhead. They scrambled up a muddy bank, sliding but rising, boots sucking. Wolves howled again, closer. Sandor cut stranger loose, The warhorse charged through brush, a crashing distraction. He grabbed Arya's hand and dragged her into a weeping willow hollow as torches flared behind. Breaths ragged, they crouched in shadows. Arya's face streaked with sludge yet bright with fierce joy. "They're not the old brotherhood," she whispered.
"I smelt rot."
"They're ghosts wearing heroes' skin," Sandor muttered. "Ghosts and fools." Hours later, when pursuit faded and only crickets dared sing, Sandor bound a strip of linen round Arya's scraped knee. She studied him through curtain of willow leaves. "The mountain will have guards thrice as many." "He'll have me," Sandor said. "And me." He met her eyes, bright, relentless. For a heartbeat he saw the pyre of his childhood again, flame licking his vision. But in its heart stood not Gregor's shadow, but Arya Stark, dagger raised, eyes full of silent promises. If he feared the fire, she would walk into it barefoot. "Then," he said, voice low, "let's see how many shadows a single torch can cast." When morning came, they were on horseback again. Stranger found grazing by a brook as though he had orchestrated escape himself. They rode northwest, steering by deer tracks and moss where bark grew thick on southern sides of oaks. Streams braided underfoot, mud creeping up shin and flank. Somewhere far ahead smoke spiraled from unseen chimneys. Perhaps an inn, perhaps a pyre. War made little difference between the two. At dusk they crested a rise and saw the riverlands spread before them like a tattered quilt. To the northeast the twins loomed, twin towers stark against amber sky, banners limp yet menacing. To the west riverrun spires caught dying light like embers. Between lay fields trampled to mud, a grave for every dream of peace. Sandor reined in. 100 leagues of blades, girl." Arya shaded her eyes. 100 opportunities. He chuckled. "When did you grow older than me?" "When the world grew smaller than my list." He pushed Stranger onward. Below, in distant fields, torches winked like fireflies, a column on the move. He lifted a spyglass stolen from the raider corpses. Gold cloth draped a center wagon. White cloaks rode flanks, their silk sullied with road dust but unmistakable in twilight. Gregor Clegane's column. Sandor's heart beat slow, deliberate, as when he faced the bear at Harrenhal pit fights. Fear was noise. He banished it. Plan. Step. Kill. He clapped the glass shut. "Found him. Oh, he's less than 2 days ahead." Arya's jaw set. "Then we eat their dust or their blood?" "Both," Sandor said. He urged Stranger down the slope. Night swallowed them whole, but in the void between stars and soil, the Hound and the wolf cub rode with a single pulse. Iron and ice braided, bearing north to carve their names upon a giant's tomb. End of part 1, 30,000 characters. Ask when ready for the next chapter, and we'll pick up the hunt as the torches of the mountain's convoy glow on the horizon. The moon sank behind ragged clouds as Sandor and Arya rode the ridgeline, a pale smear fading into wet velvet sky. Mist weighted every blade of grass, silvering the downs like frost though the night was warm. Stranger's hooves made little sound on the loam. The gelding Arya rode ghosted beside him, nostrils flaring to the earthy scent of deer beds and wild garlic. Below, the faint glow of campfires sighed across a harvested field where barley stubble stood like broken spears, bleak and waiting. Gregor Clegane's convoy had halted for the night. They counted 3 wagons lashed in a shallow U, resting on iron-rimmed wheels sunk deep in ruts. The middle cart, swathed in the same golden brocade Mara had described, squatted broader than its sisters, its canopy stitched from striped Myrish silk that caught emberlight and threw it back in shifting reds and ochres. The other 2 wagons held barrels and crates strapped under tarpaulin. Horses stamped in picket lines. Outriders paced the ring of torchlight in sets of 2, cloaks flapping like dun sails. Sandor lowered the spyglass, knuckles whitening where scar tissue pulled tight. 26 men, he breathed. Could be more under canvas. Arya crouched beside him, elbows braced on the ridge's crown. She had plucked a row of burdock leaves to muffle the shine of her leather sleeves. The soft green hung from her arms like scaled bracers. 2 atop the middle wagon, she noted. Crossbows on swivel stocks. They cover each other's blind sides. Stinking waste of good quarrels, Sandor muttered. Gregor's no mind for tactics. He just puts meat where iron'll land first. Still, he kept studying the pattern. Every 50 heartbeats, an inner lantern shifted, leaking thin beams through the silk. Something heavy stirred in that central cart. Once, twice, the fabric bulged outward, then sagged. Arya whispered, "What's he hiding?" "Could be loot," Sandor said. "Could be prey." His voice scraped like flint struck dry. "Could be the corpse they'll make of you if he wins this game." She did not flinch. "We won't let him." Struck him again, that pronoun, we. And with it, the strange certainty that had settled on him since salt pans. The sense of marching down a road laid long ago, each cobble carved by choices neither of them quite remembered making. He closed the spyglass, tucked it into his belt. "We cut their throats an hour before dawn. Night's deepest then. Men's guard runs thin." Arya shook her head. "Dawn will wake the crossbows first, and iron squeals when it bites crates." She tapped her own chest, where needle lay sheathed flat against her spine. "They won't hear me." "You'd climb that wagon blind," he grumbled. "And the mountain would smell your stark blood before you breathe twice." "Not if he's drunk." She pointed to a keg propped beside the nearest campfire. "They've tapped ale already. Another keg's open. By cockcrow they'll piss themselves awake." Sandor weighed the barley stubble rolling between them and the torches. 200 paces of exposed ground. No cover save low shocks of straw tied in conical stacks. The moonlight favored shadows they could snake between, but the risk of being skylined loomed large. Stranger's dark hide could vanish in gloom, yet the gelding bore white fetlocks that might flicker as flags. He cursed softly, mind turning. "We create a louder shadow," he said at last. Arya leaned closer, wolf eyes keen. "Fire! Smoke!" He scanned the ridge behind, where scrub pines crowded gullies. Resinous wood would plume thick, even damp. "You circle wide to the east, light 3 patches. Their watch will see flame rise in 2 directions. They'll think bandits or rebels. Send riders. Leave you alone with the mountain? I won't be alone." He patted Stranger's neck. "I'll bring your list my own greeting." She frowned. "If you fall." "If I fall, take that gold-draped wagon. Slice what's inside free of its chain and run. Whatever Gregor clutches, Cersei wants. Deny her." He pushed a lock of hair from his ruined brow. "War's not swords in the gut only. War's spite." The look she gave him was neither child's nor squire's. It was comrades. She tugged a curl behind her ear, nodded. 3 fires, she said. 1 in the Pines Gully, 1 at the Hayloft Ruin, 1 near the ford. "Time them equal," Sandor warned. "Not one after. I know timing." He breathed deep, then drew a small pouch from his vest, coarse gray powder that smelled of rotten eggs and smoke. "Cannon fire dust from Myr," he said. "Stolen 10 winters back. Sprinkle it on damp wood. Flame swells bright." He pressed it into her palm. "Don't inhale." She tucked the pouch in her belt as though it were nothing more than a coin purse. Her fingers brushed his wrist fleeting. Then she was on her feet, sliding back over the ridge. He watched her slither down the reverse slope, swift as a marten, vanishing among thistle tufts. Alone, he savored one last swig from his skin, bitter cider long turned. It burned down to the pit of him, meeting the older burn that never truly cooled. Then he decided to let anger breathe. He dropped onto Stranger, knuckles tight round coarse mane, and led the stallion along the ridgeline until they reached an angle directly south of the convoy. A copse of alder saplings grew there, stunted yet dense enough to mask the horse's bulk. Sandor looped the reins loosely. Stranger knew his screams would come running if called. The hound stretched, loosened shoulders, rolled his neck until vertebrae cracked like distant caltrops. He unlashed the throwing axe from his saddle, slipped 2 spare knives inside his belt, then untied a darker bundle. His father's old kite shield, cured leather stretched over oak. The Clegane sigil, 3 black dogs on ochre, had been scorched off years before. Only faint silhouettes remained. "A dog without a kennel," he muttered. He slid down the hill slow. Each footfall counted beats of heart and breath. At 50 paces he flattened behind a straw shock, straw prickling his cheek. 2 sentries stood near the outer wagon's rear wheel, one picking teeth with a knife, the other hunched over a pail peeing. Their helmets were mismatched. One gleamed new with Lannister crimson plume, the other a dented iron pot. Sandor waited. The peeing man finished, buckled, turned to hurl his slop into grass. In that spin Sandor rose. The throwing axe flicked from his wrist, a dull blur. It struck the pot helm just above the earplate with a wet thunk. The man collapsed without a shout. Toothpicker stared, mouth agape. Sandor pounced, left hand clamping the man's jaw, right knife sliding under mail into throat. Hot rush flowed over his knuckles. He shoved the corpse down beside the other, wiped blade on cloak. No shout rose. Crackle of campfire, snore of distant teamster. That was all. He dragged bodies beneath the wagon's shadow, hefted the larger into an empty crate recess. From his belt he produced a black strip of cloth, wound it about his burned cheek and lower face. Better a faceless devil than Clegane's infamous snarl. Fear unexplained cut deeper than names. Inside the camp proper, torches flickered on spears planted in churned mud. A drunken sentry dozed by the lead wagon's tongue, chin sagging. Another pair diced using a helm as cup, coins clinking. Sandor angled between storage crates, keeping low behind casks. Smoke stung from braziers, mutton sizzling. One man carved slivers of meat, grease shining down his beard. The mountain's men ate like boars, heedless of ration. Sandor's gut soured at the waist. Peasants burned thatched roofs for less. He crept toward the gold-draped wagon's rear. Canvas flaps were bound with velvet cords, heavy and embroidered with roses. Tyrell spoils, likely. Beneath hung a chain looped twice and sealed by thick brass lock. He pressed ear to canvas. Inside, something breathed, slow, ponderous, as if lungs half full of tar. Chains rasped faintly, maybe shackles. He pictured a prisoner gagged, or beast muzzled. Mountain's secret. Minutes bled. Then, across the field, a bloom of orange. A pine gully ignited, sparks sailing. Torches whipped as sentries pointed. A second bloom flared near a dilapidated hayloft. Roofs caved under gout of flame, casting jagged shadows. Shouts rose. The drunk sprang, drew sword. Dice players scattered toward horses. Horns blared. Exactly on cue, the third fire vomited smoke by the ford behind them, painting night with pulsing ember. Perfect girl, Sandor thought. Most riders leapt on saddles, galloping to flank the blazes. Only a skeleton guard ringed the wagons now, 6 men and 2 on the roof. But atop the golden wagon lumbered a giant outline, bigger than the crossbowmen. Gregor's armored bulk. He had emerged at the first alarm, helm off, pale moonlight glancing across his brow. Sandor's breath hitched, hate flooding. Even at 30 paces Gregor's eyes glowed feral, scanning. He barked orders. Men scattered faster. No chance of stealth now. Sandor unslung kite shield, slipped left hand into straps. Axe reclaimed, sword held firm. He stepped from shadow. "Brother!" he called, raw voice echoing over clamor. Gregor's head pivoted slow as siege turret. Recognition flared, more in the sneer than the eyes. The mountain extended a gauntlet, gesturing men aside. He vaulted from wagon roof like falling boulder, landing with crunch of cartilage, a corpse's bones underfoot. "Dog!" he rumbled, wiping gore from boot tip. "You've grown fleas." Sandor circled, keeping shield angled to tree line, weapon low. "And you've grown tits wearing lion colors." "Lion's feet." Gregor drew his greatsword, an absurd slab more cleaver than blade. Torchlight shivered on its nicked edge. "Dogs beg scraps. Dogs bite throats." Gregor laughed, a fleeting sound like granite grating. He advanced, sword raised high with one hand. In the other he hefted spiked mace. dual-wielding overkill incarnate. Yet the giant moved fluid, trained on carnage. Sandor inhaled. "Arya," he whispered, though she could not hear. "Now." On cue, a fourth flare roared, not in perimeter but within camp, under an ox cart piled with hay. Arya must have darted between wagons unseen, sowing dust. Flames licked axle grease. Cart wheels ignited in flash. Horses panicked, reared. 2 tether ropes snapped. Destriers bolted, trampling a startled spearman. Screams rose. Gregor snarled, swinging mace at a frantic horse more than at Sandor, smashing its skull in spray of brain. As the steed collapsed, Sandor lunged. Axe whirled, struck Gregor's pauldron, ricocheted, head cracking but not biting. The mountain pivoted, sword descending. Sandor braced. Kite shield caught blow, oak splintering, force jarring his spine. He rolled sideways, using broken momentum to slash with long knife. Edge skimmed a gap near greave straps, drew a thin thread of blood. Gregor scarcely reacted. "Little cuts for little coward," the mountain taunted. He swung mace low. Sandor leapt backward, but iron spikes grazed shin, tearing flesh shallow. Pain flashed cold. He answered with axe overhand. Gregor blocked with sword flat. Axe haft shivered, snapped. Sandor flung the stump to distract, ducked under backhand sweep. Around them, chaos brewed. One wagon roof caved under ember. Crossbowmen fell shrieking, clothes afire. Arya's figure darted behind barrels, slicing hobble ropes. More horses thundered free. Sandor feinted left, rolled right, stabbed. His blade screeched across breastplate. Gregor grunted, kicked. The impact lifted Sandor, hurled him 3 paces. He crashed on crates, ribs creaking, vision blurred. He struggled upright, cursed the ache. The mountain stalked nearer, mace dripping red horse gore. "I broke your toy sword years ago," he said, "and your body with it. Time to finish." Sandor spat blood, steadied stance, half shield rim jagged. "You finished nothing, Gregor. You never finish, just smash and walk away. But I'm still here." Sudden arrow hissed, not at Gregor, at the lock on the gold wagon. Metal shattered, link snapping. Arya had loosed from cover. She rushed forward, slicing velvet cords. Canvas flaps spilled aside. From inside, a figure slumped, tall, lean, wrapped in chains. Hair dull silver glinted. Sandor blinked. A knight? No. An armored woman, white cloak ragged, face pale as parchment. Cersei Corbray's sister? No, this was bigger. As chains peeled, she straightened, eyes luminous violet in torch glow. 7 preserve, Sandor breathed. It's a Targaryen. Gregor roared, distracted. Get back. Sandor seized chance, charged, shield first. Rim smashed Gregor's thigh joint. The mountain staggered half-step. Sandor's sword stabbed upward, seeking gap beneath breastplate. Metal met mail, but point slid between plates into soft above hip bone. Gregor howled, hammered mace down. Sandor jerked back. Mace clipped shoulder, numbing arm. Arya meanwhile hacked the last links on prisoner's ankle. The silver-haired woman tore free, seized a fallen spear. Even chained, she moved like water. She looked neither at Arya nor Sandor, her gaze fixed on Gregor with cold fury. Gregor saw her and froze oddly, as if confronted by ghost of prey he'd slaughtered. Then, with bestial snort, he barreled toward wagon. Sandor intercepted, parrying. Behind him, Arya darted under wagons, knifing calf tendons of 2 guards who tried to flank. They toppled, wailing. Dog! The mountain gasped, voice frayed. You die last. I'll feed you your wolf. Sandor laughed through pain. You always got order wrong. He feinted high. Gregor lifted sword. Sandor clove low, carving knee strap. His blade bit meat, warm spray dotted straw. Gregor crumpled to one knee, swung blindly. Sandor ducked, hacking again at armpit seam. Sword lodged in mail. Hold him, hissed the Targaryen woman, voice smoky, foreign. She vaulted the crates, chains rattling from wrists. The spear in her grip glimmered pale. Obsidian? No, dragonglass barbed along ash shaft. She thrust, driving point beneath helm visor. A wet crunch. Gregor's head recoiled, blood and black ichor spurting. He dropped mace. Sword sagged. Sandor wrenched his own blade free and slashed neck crease. More fluid gout. Steaming. Gregor Clegane toppled onto back, torso thrashing, gauntlets clawing for purchase. The woman kicked the greatsword aside, drove spear through chest again, pinning him to earth like insect. Silence. Distant fires cracked. Horses whinnied panicked. Sandor staggered a step, shield falling. Breath rasping, he looked to the silver-haired stranger. She tore chain remnants from wrists, tossed spear down, and met his stare. "I am Alice Rivers," she said softly, though ancient echo threaded her syllables. "Blood of Blackfire, bound by witch knots to Cersei's alchemist. He would make me weapon. Now his mountain is dust." Arya emerged from under carriage, cheeks soot, eyes alight. "Are you a queen?" Alice's smile held sorrow. "Queen of ghosts, perhaps." She bowed shallow toward Arya. "You freed me, wolf child." Arya sheathed dagger. "Then help us vanish. More riders will come." Alice lifted palms. Crimson flame flickered along her fingers, then died. Quick conjuration. "The night obeys. Follow." She strode past Gregor's corpse. Sandor noted how his brother's eyes, once burning, now glazed lifeless. For decades of nightmare ended without thunder, just hiss of dragon glass. Stranger trotted to Sandor, scenting blood. He hauled himself into saddle, wincing. Arya swung up behind Alice onto a freed courser. They galloped south around blazing wagons. Smoke cloaked stars, ash snowed on cloaks. In scudding glow, Sandor saw Arya glance back, face unreadable. She did not cheer. She simply watched until Gregor's bulk receded into dark. They rode till dawn cracked raw on horizon, then deeper, until dawn itself seemed a story whispered in another kingdom. At last Alice guided them into an abandoned, sept half-sunk in ivy, a league east of stony September. Cracked statues of the seven leaned, crooked among dew-wet nettles. Inside, dust motes drifted through broken roof like lost prayers. They tethered horses, stripped armor. Sandor collapsed against a pillar, tearing sleeve to bind shin wound. Arya fetched a splintered pew plank and kindled small fire. Alice crouched, humming words older than the faith. She touched fingertips to Sandor's bleeding shin, heat seeping under skin, knitting flesh slow. Pain dulled. "I've no debts to dogs," she murmured. "But your fire burned your fear away long ago. That fire I honor." Sandor studied her. "Why did Cersei keep you caged?" "To breed dragon dreams," she said. "Qyburn sought to distill prophecy as maesters distill spirits. They think fear a key to open futures. They fed me shade of the evening, set mountain as guardian and tormentor." Her eyes flared violet again. "But fear tempered me." Arya sat cross-legged. "Will Cersei hunt us harder now?" Alice smiled. "A lioness crazed by scent of cub's blood? Oh yes, she will howl." She gazed at Sandor. "But the mountain she trusted is rubble." "We need river boats," Sandor said hoarsely. "Gold timbers headed for Twins will turn back soon. We ride north, maybe east to White Harbor." Alice lifted hand. "The rivers run red. Fry strongholds weaken after Stoneheart's noose. The wolf has more packs than the lion guesses." She traced ash on floorboards, rough map. "There is a hidden ferry where the trident forks beneath Widow's Ford. The ferryman's sigil is a black fish. He will row you unseen." Arya's breath caught. "The blackfish lives?" "In shadow," Alice said. "But shadow moves." Sandor flexed stitched chin, tested weight. He could walk. "You come too." "My path bends south," she answered. "A raven flies for Dragonstone, carrying Storm's brood." She pressed a silver coin into Arya's palm. Valyrian dragons stamped both sides. "When next our fires meet, I will know." Arya closed fist round coin. "Thank you." Alice rose, lifted crimson-stained spear. At threshold she paused. "The mountain is dead," she said, voice floating like harp across ruined nave. But mountains crumble only to feed rivers. Beware where that river flows next. Then she melted into morning fog, trailing faint scent of smoke and ocean salt. Sandor watched her vanish. Witches and queens, he muttered. I preferred horse thieves. Arya pocketed coin. Horse thieves don't heal wounds, nor do they draw new targets on our backs. He groaned upright, strapped sword. Come. We need distance before Lannisters sniff ashes. They left the sept just as sun spilled gold through broken oculus, painting floor with light. Dew on their cloaks shimmered. Crows cawed overhead. Behind them the statues waited, mute, as though blessing or damning no longer mattered. They followed deer trails until midday, skirting farmlets where smoke of breakfast still curled. Peasantry eyed them fearfully, but none barred path. Rumor of war dogs and wolf girls traveled faster than wind. At a mill house by bending stream, Sandor squatted to clean shield edge, carving away splinters. Arya knelt to wash blood from needle, methodical. Did you mourn him? She asked suddenly. Mourn Gregor, Sandor barked. I piss on his ashes. Not him, the man he burned you into. Sandor paused, staring at warped reflection in brook. I mourn nothing, he lied. Water carried lie downstream. She rose. He cannot hurt you anymore. Hurt's just a word. Scars stay. He hauled to feet. But scars remind. Remind what? To keep cutting. He wiped face. The list goes on. Arya nodded once. She scanned Treeline southwest. More riders will follow, but they'll search for Targaryen first. We're ghosts again. Not ghosts, he said, tightening cinch. Ghosts fade. We howl. She smiled then, quick and fierce, and the day seemed younger than dawn. They reached Widow's Ford on the second dusk, after skirting a cluster of fry patrols. A mist-clad river stretched wide, oxbow curling like a serpent's neck. Beneath weeping willows crouched an old ferry, no more than broad raft lashed to pilings. A hooded man waited, pole in hand. On his patched jerkin glittered a threadbare emblem of leaping trout bound in iron ring. Blackfish, he gestured silently. Stranger stepped aboard without coaxing. Arya guided the gelding. The ferryman cast off. River current caught them, a hush-draping scene. Midstream, ferryman broke quiet. Crown's rage climbs behind, he rasped, voice like river stones. You stirred hornet's nest, Clegane. Sandor grunted. Nest needed stirring. Ferryman nodded slow. North remembers. He studied Arya. Winter wolf with needle teeth. His eyes gleamed pride. Brotherhood beyond banners hunts for you, girl. Some seek embrace, some seek coin. Arya's face shadowed, remembering night of crimson hoods. We choose our own pack, she said. Aye. Wind tugged hood, revealing white beard coarse as river foam. He lifted a small iron token shaped like fish scale, pressed it into Arya's palm. Blackfish swims beneath ice yet. The raft nudged opposite bank. They disembarked. Ferryman pulled back with silent wave. Sandor sighed, surveying forest path ahead. Old King's Road spur gone to weeds. Far to the north, clouds bruised horizon, promise of autumn storm. What now? Arya asked. Now, Sandor said. We bring a queen her message, that dogs bite back. And wolves, he smirked. They lead the pack. They turned northward, leaving muddy prints that river breeze soon blurred. Behind them, campfires of fry patrols flickered faint. Ahead, deeper woods yawned, where names had yet to be carved into bark. They walked into shadow together, sword and needle swinging quiet rhythm, heartbeat of journey only just begun. 5 nights later, the Queen of the 7 Kingdoms screamed. In the red keeps solar Cersei lashed wine across tapestry, shattering goblet. Qyburn trembled at threshold, clutching parchment. Your Grace, he croaked. Gregor, Sir Robert, has not answered signal fires. Ravens report a smoldering field near the tumblestone. Bodies uncounted. The gold wagon gone. Cersei's voice cracked. And the Targaryen witch? Lost. Qyburn bowed. My agents say a hound's paw print pressed in dry blood beside Ser Gregor's helm. She clawed hair from her face. Sandor, fury shook breath. He dares defy me again. Qyburn cleared throat. Your grace, shall I dispatch the second sons? Dario Naharis offers loyalty for coin. No, she paced. Sell swords, switch banners with the wind. I need storms. She stopped at balcony. Gaze raking bay where war galleys rocked. Send word to Euron Greyjoy. Tell him I buy krakens now, not promises. His ironborn will scour every estuary. And send ravens north. She added, nails digging palm. To Sansa Stark, to Jon Snow. Tell them their little sister rides with the hound who butchered Micah. Let them fear her death by my decree. Qyburn bowed deeper. As you command. When he departed, Cersei lifted shattered goblet, sliced finger on shard. Blood welled. She stared at bead, rolled it between thumb and nail. Even mountains fall, she whispered. But rivers only lead to sea. She brought finger to lips, tasted copper. And the sea is mine. Out on Blackwater Bay a gull shrieked, wheeling above red-sailed ship newly anchored. Across its prow a great squid carved from ebony glared at the city like omen. Cersei's smile curved thin and cruel. Storm clouds gathered. North of the Trident, Sandor and Arya camped in ruins of an old sept on the edge of the neck. Wind carried salt from distant swamps. Frogs sang. Sandor stoked fire small, mindful of search parties. Arya practiced forms, water dance footwork, spins silent on moss. She stopped, sweating, to collapse beside him. List is shorter, she said between breaths. But Cersei sits still upon it. Plenty of throat for you both, he replied, tossing twig into flames. But we need allies. Blackfish will guide, but Starks hold the north. She stared into fire. Home, she whispered. Word tasted strange. She had not said it in moons. What if they don't know me? They'll smell the wolf, Sandor said. Same as I did. She smiled faintly, gaze distant. Fire crackled, stars wheeled. In the hush, Sandor thought of Gregor's death. How spear of dragonglass hissed, how great chest caved. The memory did not soothe. Relief sat tangled with void. But somewhere within the void, a seed felt water for first time. Sleep, girl, he murmured. I will, she said. But first, tell me a story. He snorted.
Im Novart.
Tell me anyway. So he spoke. Of two brothers once lost in mountains of fire, and of a girl who threw dawnlight on the ashes. His voice was rusty gate, but she listened as though it were harp song. When silence finally claimed camp, the fire burned low, casting coals like sleeping eyes, and wind carried scent of pine northward, toward walls of Winterfell still standing, toward a home that waited. And across leagues of dark and dream, a Lannister queen sharpened claws, Euron raised black sails, Stoneheart's nooses creaked on gallows, and crows gossiped of a silver which seeking dragonfire. The game was not ended. Pieces merely shifted. But one piece, the mountain, lay toppled, bleeding story into soil. And sometimes in Westeros, that was how revolutions began, with the fall of one impossible thing. End of this installment almost equals 5,300 words. The mire at the southern edge of the neck was a world of gray water and green ghosts, where moss-draped cypress leaned like conspirators over mirrored pools, and the wet air buzzed with clouds of midges that bit without fear. Sandor Clegane hated every clinging drop of it. Armor rusted in places he could not reach. The bandage on his shin drew swamp water the hue of bruises, and strangers sniffed each hummock with an aggrieved snort as though the horse himself might decide enough was enough and turn south again. But the horse did not turn, not when the wolf girl pressed on ahead, blade in hand, eyes tracking the faintest ripple in still water. The map wrinkled in Sandor's fist had been scribbled by the Blackfish's ferryman. Dotted lines leading north-northwest around the bog's heart, avoiding the deeper sinkholes and cannibal leech pools, then turning east toward higher ridges where old stone causeways waited above the waterline. As trails went, it was a spider's silk in a thunderstorm, yet it was all they had, and somewhere beyond the mist-shrouded cypress lay Moat Cailin. the decrepit fortress that was still gate and key to the north. For 3 days they slogged. Rain whispered nearly constant, sometimes a gentle patter on lily pads, sometimes a sudden frenzy that hammered the peat so hard it frothed. Strange calls echoed, loon laughter, distant piping of frogs, and once the rumble of a giant swamp cat that neither Arya nor Sandor could see but both felt in their bones. Nights they camped atop little islets of soft turf, laying reed mats to keep sleeping rolls from soaking. A stalemate of exhaustion reigned. The midges feasted even on Sandor's scarred cheek until he smeared mud across the burned flesh to keep them at bay. On the morning of the 4th day, a knoll of reed clumps rose ahead, and Arya held up her fist. Sandor halted. Stranger. The wind brought an unfamiliar odor. Wood smoke mixed with something sweet and herbal, like marsh rosemary bruised underfoot. Arya slid needle-free, eyes slitted. Sandor hefted horsebow, knocked a shaft. Voices drifted on damp air. Laughter, low and lilting, too musical for Sel's words. Sandor gestured. They crept to the reed's fringe and peered through. A round coracle of woven willow rode a pool beside a moss-slick stone. Beside it squatted a tiny camp. Canvas tarp suspended low, hearth of coals smoking under a clay pot. 2 children knelt at the fire, stirring with carved paddles. The older, a boy perhaps 12, had hair the color of reeds, pale and drifting in the moisture. The younger, a girl 8 or 9, wore braids adorned with snail shells. Both were dressed in faded greens and browns, mottled like the swamp. Each bore a bone knife at the belt. Arya exhaled softly, relief tinged with wonder. "Crannog folk," she whispered. Sandor grunted. "Mudmen." Before he could decide their business, the boy looked up, straight at their hiding place, as though the reeds had parted at his command. His eyes were a startling amber, bright as sunrise in smoke. He raised 2 fingers in greeting, unafraid. Arya rose slowly, sheathing needle. Sandor cursed but followed. Strangers snorted as they pushed through, water to ankles. The boy straightened. "The marsh speaks of strangers on the shadow road," he said, voice carrying a calm older than his years. "I wondered when you would come." Sandor eyed him. "If the marsh talks so much, you heard I'm no friend to children." The boy's lips twitched. "The neck knows dogs by their tracks. It also knows wolves by their scars." His gaze flicked to Arya. "You walked once with a dire wolf pup, before lion men took him." Arya's breath hitched. She swallowed. "How?" "My dreams," the boy said simply. "I am Jojen of House Reed. This is my sister Mira." The girl smiled shyly, holding paddle in mid-stir. "Our father sent us to watch for certain ripples. One ripple was the fall of a great stone. Another was the howl of a hound beside a true wolf." He inclined his head to Sandor. "You shook the river, dog. You sent the mountain to sleep." Sandor felt a chill despite the swamp heat. If rumors traveled this fast, Euron's Ironborn would not be far behind. "Ripples drown quick." "Not in the green dream," Jojen said. "There they widen." Mira set clay pot aside, wiped hands on hide tunic. "You're headed for Moat Cailin," she guessed. "You'll not pass without a guide. The causeways are drowned. Ironborn hold the towers." She nodded east where gray silhouettes loomed in mist, like broken fangs. "Harbor no love for the kraken, but they came with black hammers and quicklime, patched the breaches. The neck is bleeding. Swords will open it again," Sandor growled. "Not brute swords," Jojen said. "Stars guide stealth. Ironborn die easier when water covers ankles." Arya stepped closer, knee-deep in water that hit her boots. "Will you help us?" "Help rides both ways," Jojen said. "The north needs a wolf returned. Sansa is lost in Southron snares. Bran gone beyond the wall. Rickon vanished. You are the last Fong within reach. Bring you home, we do." Arya chewed lip. "Home." The word tugged anew. Sandor crossed arms. "And me?" Mira's grin widened. "A hound keeps wolves sharp. We would be honored you share our fire." Despite himself, Sandor felt hunger pang. Arya nodded, and they followed the siblings back to camp. The pot held fish stew thick with roots and fern tips. Sandor found it rich, though spiced with strange leaves. Jojen spoke in patient tones about the tides of war. How Roose Bolton named himself warden but could not quit Harrenhal for fear of northern revolt. How Ironborn raiders razed fishing villages along the Flint Cliffs. How the Frey's tightened tolls on the Green Fork, choking grain shipments. Most striking, whispers that Lady Stoneheart's brotherhood had taken Seaguard's outer keep 2 nights prior, hanging Lord Jason Mallister's Fry hostages and sending his younger son south with a warning etched on his chest. The North remembers. Sandor sauntered to Treeline to piss, reflecting. War had splintered, yes, but every shard pointed at Cersei Lannister. He pictured her in the Red Keep, dousing fires with wine, waiting for dragons that might never hatch but would scorch her all the same. Late afternoon, Mira guided them onto reed mats lashed together. Makeshift floating causeway slender as a dock plank. The coracle bobbed alongside. Jojen poled. Mira balanced ahead, spear held to test depth. Stranger balked at first, but Arya stroked his muzzle until he stepped. Each stride sent water sloshing over hooves, cold and dark. Leeches writhed. Sandor kept sword loosened. 2 hours on, the mats narrowed to single-file logs. The ancient causeway called the Marsh King's Way. Once it had borne trade carts. Now only moss-caked pilings remained. Jojen halted, raised hand. Beyond curtain of peat smoke, perhaps burning peat bricks, towered ramparts of Moat Cailin. Basalt walls tumbled in places, yet 3 sky towers still stood like watching ravens. Black banners edged in red rippled from battlements. Ironborn. Sandor spotted scorpions, rudimentary ballistae, mounted crooked atop parapets. A wooden palisade had been hewn from cypress trunks, reinforcing the breach. He counted 30 reavers in sight, perhaps as many hidden. Mira crouched. We hold until dusk. Cranagfolk strike when tide floods trenches behind their lines. Sandor shook head. We haven't days. The Queen's ravens will outfly us. Jojen's amber eyes sharpened. You wish another path? Show me where walls rot most, Sandor said. A dog digs holes. Mira laughed quietly. No dog has teeth for stone. A spear of dragonglass toppled a mountain, Arya reminded. Stone breaks where you find the crack. Jojen studied them both. After a moment he reached into Reed's satchel, withdrew a clay jar sealed with wax. Sorfang's bile, he explained. Sap of ghost willow, thickened with lime, ignites on air. He handed it to Arya. Use careful. Water will not quench. Arya weighed jar. Splash the crack. Strike flint, she murmured. Sandor unslung shield, traced fingertip along charred edge where Gregor's sword had bitten. I'll draw their gaze on causeway. Reavers love a challenge. You'll die, Jojen warned. I die later, Sandor said, voice flat. Not till my grave roars louder than my brother's. Dusk painted the marsh mauve and gold, reflections wobbling on mirror pools. Fog gathered waist-high. Sandor stepped onto causeway proper. Stranger's reins looped loose. He'd stripped to light brigandine, shield slung, sword unsheathed, helm absent. Let them see his face. Scars were banners of their own. Halfway across he bellowed, Wolves at your doorstep, kraken spawn. Open gate and kneel or I'll feed you to frogs. Shouts answered. Arrows hissed, sank into bog water yards shy. Ballista creaked. Bolt shattered pilings left of Sandor. He pressed onward. Stranger snorted, steady. From main roof a horn bellowed, deep call like monstrous belch. 12 Ironborn rushed out gatehouse, war picks gleaming. Sandor halted, shield raised. Fetch your lord, he roared. Eve. Words for him. Got words for your entrails. One reaver jeered, spearhead wicked barbs. They advanced across causeway, plank vibrating under armored boots. Behind Sandor, the marsh erupted Mira's war call, shrill trill of lizard skin pipes. From slime, figures rose clad in moss and bark. Cranag warriors, spears tipped bone, nets woven of sinew. They surged, cutting the Ironborn off from retreat. But Sandor lunged first, shield bash knocking lead Reaver sideways into water. His sword-sheared spear haft bit through collarbone. 2 arrows glanced his brigandine. Third sank in shield rim. He smashed empty edge against Ironborn's helm, cracking nose to blood. Chaos bloomed. Nets tangled Reaver legs. Bone knives slit throats in knee-deep water. Sandor drove forward, bulldozing path. In moments 6 Ironborn lay gurgling. The rest turned to flee. Gatehouse guards cranked portcullis downward, but swamp ropes Crannic-folk had gnawed through by afternoon, snapped. The gate sagged crooked. Arya darted from fog, Sorfang's Baljar in hand. She lobbed it high. Jar shattered on wall seemed soaked in rainwater. For heartbeat nothing happened. Then green flame blossomed, brighter than wildfire, though cooler hued, tracing fissures like lightning. Stone hissed, cracked. A 10-foot span collapsed outward, Ironborn tumbling into ditch. Sandor roared approval, scrambled over rubble into outer yard. 2 Reavers charged. He parried axe blow, ducked hook, rammed pommel into jaw. The second swung cutlass. Sandor caught wrist, twisted until bones snapped, then kicked man through smoldering gap. Arya slipped behind, darting between bodies. Up narrow stair she sprinted. Atop, helm captain brandished dirk. She ducked slash, stabbed armpit, pivoted to hamstring another. The gatehouse roof was hers. Below, Mira and half-dozen Crannic folk wrangled portcullis chains, lifting rust grate high enough for reinforcements. From fog, more Crannic boats approached. Sandor stomped into inner courtyard. Here stood the central sky tower, crooked, slate top collapsed but base intact. Torchlight flickered near door. The true captain rallying. He wore rusted plate with kraken on breast, long axe in fists. "I, dog," the man snarled, spitting chew. "I heard of you, but dead men hold no markets." "Then sell me yours," Sandor said, fainting step. The axe whistled wide. Sandor slipped left, cut thigh. Captain roared, chopping down. Sandor blocked with shield, rim denting. Recoil rattled bones. He circled, slashed calf again, snuck thrust between ribs. Captain staggered, swung overhead. Sandor stepped inside arc, point blank, and shoved sword through male throat. Blood sprayed across dog sigil burn. Captain collapsed, clanging. From battlement above, horn sounded surrender. Ironborn drifted back, weapons lowered as marsh warriors flooded yard. Crannig archers lined parapets. In less than an hour, Moat Cailin belonged to the neck. Night found them in Captain's Hall, candles illuminating mildew-stained tapestries where krakens devoured ships. Rain-hammered roof now, drowning moans of wounded in yard. Skewers of eel and cattail heart roasted on spit. Arya sat cross-legged at long table, wiping needle. Mira bandaged a slice along Arya's forearm, souvenir of wall shard. Jojen approached Sandor. "Causeway North is clear now. My people will hold the towers, bar Bolton men or Fry troop." Sandor grunted. He'd taken arrow graze to bicep, bruises belly to spine, but nothing lethal. "Gratitude's rare these days. Take mine." He lifted tin cup. Jojen lowered voice. "Past the causeway lies white weirwood standing alone in fun. Beneath it is a barrow mound. 2 days' ride further, Giant's lantern marks King's Road. Stark outriders patrol discreet. Show them this." He slid a bronze ring onto Sandor's night-scarred palm. "Twin fish chasing tail, House Tully. They'll escort you to Deepwood or Queen's Crown, whichever stands still. From there, ravens fly quick to Winterfell." Sandor tucked ring in pouch. "The Starks trust a face like mine? They'll trust the girl at your side." Jojen faced Arya. "I dreamed of your return. A wolf with clean jaws walks Winterfell's battlements while snowflakes melt on its fur. The dream ends before I see if the wolf howls or bites." Arya stared. "I'll do both," she said. Mira chuckled. "See you do." They slept in the topmost chamber that night. Storm winds howled through arrow slits, but inside, fire offset damp. Sandor removed brigandine, propped shield against stone. Arya curled in corner bedroll. In flicker glow, he saw her brow knit even in rest, a girl haunted by lists that bled into sleep. Yet in lamplight the frown eased, replaced by something near peace. He let eyelids drift. Thoughts meandered to Gregor's last breath, to Alice River's violet gaze, to Cersei's likely wrath. Mountains fell, seas rose. Could a dog outrun either? Maybe not. But dogs, he knew, were loyal to the end, even to masters who loathed them. Perhaps Arya was master now. He drifted wondering if he should tell her that. Dawn brought clearing skies, marsh mist steaming. Sandor and Arya departed on fresh swamp ponies gifted by Mira, sure-footed little shaggy beasts that loped easily along half-submerged causeway. Stranger followed behind, saddlebags laden with smoked eel and spearheads. Crannig archers saluted. Arya returned gesture in silent pride. Beyond Weirwood Barrow they found, as promised, King's Road's ancient flagstones half overgrown yet firm. The land rose gradually. Muck gave way to sandy heath dotted with blue gentians and pale ghost grass. Colder too, the air tinged by northern sea. Mid-afternoon they topped a ridge to see torches flickering on track ahead. 6 riders in mail bearing direwolf banners quartered with flayed man, colors dulled by mud. 2 at vanguard wore Bolton colors, for Stark. The Starks watched wary as Bolton men hailed Sandor. State name and cause, a Bolton sergeant barked. Sandor reined in. Name's Clegane. He felt Bolton tension rise. Good. Cause is northbound Mercy Run. Clegane killed Mountain, one Stark rider whispered to comrade. Word traveled indeed. Arya nudged pony forward, hood falling to reveal tangled dark hair and gray eyes. I am Arya Stark of Winterfell, she said, voice ringing. Daughter of Lord Eddard, sister to Lady Sansa. I demand passage. Bolton's sergeant scoffed. Girls as much Stark as I'm dragon. One Stark outrider, tall lad maybe 18, leaned forward squinting. She bears Lady Caitlin's nose, he murmured. Arya produced the iron token from Blackfish, tossed to outrider. He caught, examined. Bolton's sergeant spat. Trick. He reached for reins. Sandor's sword cleared in blur, point hovering before the man's throat. Bolton froze. I gut lords and dogs alike, Sandor rumbled. The Stark lad handed token to his captain, who nodded, eyes glistening. Stand down, Sedge. He bowed to Arya. My lady, pardon these Southron manners. We thought you lost. Winterfell will rejoice. Arya's lip quivered, but she steadied. Take me home. They formed escort, Stark's flanking, Bolton's lagging sullen. Sandor kept rear, wary. At sunset they reached a field encampment where Stark pavilions fluttered. Perhaps 40 riders, lean force under banner of galloping horsehead and direwolf quartered, a Karstark sigil modified. Captains greeted Arya with stunned reverence, offering venison and oat bread. She ate little, gazed distant to northern horizon where dusk smoldered purple. That night Sandor found Arya sitting alone outside tent, moonlight silver on her face. Nerves? He grunted, sinking beside. I dreamed of this, she whispered. But dreams freeze like rivers in winter and crack when spring floods. She shivered though air not cold. What if home isn't home? Home's a word, Sandor said. People make it flesh. He poked campfire. Sparks drifted. Your people need that flesh. She watched flames. Where will you go once I'm safe? He shrugged. Find tavern. Find fight. Maybe follow which south. See what seas she stirs. You could stay. He barked laugh. Wolf keeps dog as pet? Every hall needs a hound to guard it, she said softly. Humor faded. He stared at her serious eyes, saw his reflection warped by fire. I'm no true knight, girl. No, she agreed. You're better. He had no answer. 2 days later, they rode into Winterfell's shadow. Snow-dusted broken walls patched by rough carpentry. The great keep still bore scorched scars from Theon's betrayal, yet banners flew anew, stark gray over white, flapping defiantly. In ward below, small folk hammered shingles, smiths forged nails. The castle lived again. Trumpets blew. Gatehouse lifted. On ramparts, figures gathered: soldiers, servants, children. Arya dismounted, legs shaking, walked through arch where Rimefrost clung. Inside, by broken well, stood Sansa Stark in direwolf fur cloak. Red gold hair braided, she stared as though beholding ghost. "Arya," Sansa whispered, voice cracked. Arya's breath billowed white. She stepped forward, Sansa sprinted. They crashed hugs so fierce both tumbled to knees. Sobs echoed, soldiers bowed heads. Sandor watched, throat thick. Memories of Sansa's songbird fragility in King's Landing flickered. She looked steel-spined now. He saw them speak. No sound reached him. Then Sansa turned eyes on him, gratitude mixed with sorrow. She mouthed thank you. He nodded stiff. From Keep Door strode Jon Snow, black cloak over stark armor, long claw at hip. His face broke in grin half wild. He knelt, enveloping both sisters. For a moment the world melted into quiet he had not felt since boyhood by the Trident's riverbank. Bolton's sergeant, arriving last, I'd seen with poorly masked disdain. Jon Rose called, "Take this man to cells. He answers for Ramson's crimes." Bolton sputtered. Stark guards seized him. Sansa stepped to Sandor. "We owe debt. Call it even," he muttered. "Your sister saved me too." She studied his scarred cheek, eyes kind yet shrewd. "Winterfell offers guest right. Will you take bread and salt?" He hesitated, only heartbeat. "Bread I'll take. Salt stings wounds." She smiled gently nonetheless. Feasts followed, humble by Southron measure, but hearty. Mutton, turnips, barley beer. Snow fell outside, hall filled with warmth. Northern lords trickled in to pay respects. Meage Mormont's daughter Dacey, tall as man. Lord Glover still mending arm. Ser Davos Seaworth on King John's council. All greeted Arya with mixture of awe and relief. She endured, though gaze wandered, as though searching for echoes of father's laughter in beams overhead. During council sessions Sandor stood guard at sidewall, refusing seat. He listened as ravens reported. Cersei crowned Euron Lord Paramount of the Riverlands, Iron Fleet sailing north. Stannis regrouping at White Harbor. Lady Stoneheart forging pacts with Blackwoods. Wildfire stores discovered missing at King's Landing, likely loaded onto Greyjoy hulls.
Va expanding.
Jon proposed alliance with Vale, sending Sansa to negotiate with Sweet Robin. Arya demanded to ride south on shadow missions. They argued softly. Eventually Jon agreed she might lead small strike force of trusted blades to harry Ironborn supply lines, so long as veteran accompanied. All eyes went to Sandor. He scowled.
Im non ursamait.
Sansa's lips twitched. "We thought Guardhound." Arya elbowed his ribs. "You promise you'll gut Freys, then you balk?" He felt trapped close, and oddly fondly. "Fine, but I choose route." Jon clasped wrist, ceiling packed.
Sansa pord ale.
Hall roared toast. Later, alone in courtyard, Sandor gazed at freshly carved stone in crypt entrance. Here sleeps Rickon Stark, faithful son. Beneath, dirt still unsettled. He bowed head, thinking of boys' laughter echo at frolic pools, killed by Ramsay's arrow. Snowflakes kissed burnt flesh. Steps approached Arya. She placed gloved hand on his forearm. "We fight until list ends," she said. He nodded. "And what then?" "Then we write new list," she answered. "One of lives we'll save." He almost smiled. "Long list. Long roads," she countered. They turned toward stables where stranger awaited, stamping impatience. Dawn would bring departure. Seas raged, lions plotted, krakens coiled. But in the hush of falling snow, with pack at their backs and home aflame with hope, the hound and the wolf found something larger than fear. A promise forged in ashen ice, in names crossed out and names reborn. And somewhere beyond horizon, Cersei Lannister felt the first tug of winter's chain tightening round her golden throat, pulled not by armies alone, but by a girl's quiet vow and the dog who chose to guard it. Snow whispered across the battlements, soft as sleep but restless, forever drifting. Sandor stood on the inner wall walk above Winterfell's gatehouse, watching the white settle into the crenels and melt against warm torch baskets. A full moon rode low behind scudding clouds, limning each tower in pewter. Below in the yard blacksmith still hammered, sparks flying like fireflies, preparing extra horseshoes, arrowheads, and new spear points for the raiders' hunt. Every clang rang a warning bell in his skull. Dawn would break and they would ride, and after that nothing was certain. He leaned on the parapet. Needle-thin icicles clung to his burned cheek where breath condensed. In the bailey, Arya Stark practiced a last dance, a blur of gray and shadow at the edge of a training circle. Every slash of needle cut the snow shower with bright precision. So smooth she seemed part of the falling flakes instead of flesh. Each time she pivoted, wolf-emblazoned cloak flared. Each time she leapt, boots landed without sound. Nearby, half a dozen eager northern youths copied her steps in exaggerated motions, laughing at their own clumsiness. She corrected stances, tapped pommels, and once tossed a walnut into the snow for them to stab. It vanished, still unpierced, until she plucked it from behind a boy's ear and flipped it skyward where her steel caught it neatly on the point. The onlookers cheered. Sandor shook his head, lips curling. A year ago the girl could barely lift a helm. Now she trained recruits with the calm of a castellan. He heard bootfalls crunch on the step stair. Jon Snow emerged at his shoulder, fur cloak hoary with frost. The bastard king folded gloved hands on the stone, gaze following his sister. "She's restless as a snow squall," Jon murmured. "Snow squalls cut deep." Sandor spat into the yard. "Give her soft blankets. She'll chew them to ribbons." Jon's breath fogged. She rode half the night scouting the swale east of the Wolfswood. Returned with 2 riders and 3 new bruises. He smiled wry. "I never thought to see her call Winterfell home again. But home has changed. So has she." Sandor flexed his damaged wrist. Cold ached like teeth in bone. "You sending only 15 with us?" 16 including the old dog. Jon's grin flashed quick. "You'll run fast and light." The Ironborn camp on Cape Kraken's Islet. Tidal causeway floods twice daily. When the tide's out, the Reavers escort supply mules from their mainland post. When it's in, they feel secure. He tapped Snow. "You'll strike at flood tide when they're trapped." Sandor grunted. "Flood plus marsh again. I'll grow fins at this rate." Jon's eyes hardened.
Euron carries wildfire-cas.
"If he lands them near White Harbor, the city burns. We sink those barges first. Barges'll be guarded. That's why we're sending a hound." Jon opened a small velvet pouch and produced the ring Sandor had returned earlier, the twin fish of Tully. "One more token. Brynden says it's the last he'll ever forge. For luck." Sandor accepted, turning bronze between scarred fingers. "Luck tastes like copper. It'll keep you afloat." Jon's voice softened. "Bring her back, Sandor. Or at least bring her vengeance." Sandor barked a laugh. "Vengeance weighs less than hope, Snow. Easier for me to carry." He turned from the parapet, descended stairs, and strode across yard as horns signaled bedtime for new recruits. Arya dismissed her cadets with a nod. She caught Sandor's arm as he passed, sweat beading her temple. "Storm's easing," she said. "We leave at second crow. Go peel that snow from your corners, girl. Need eyes open." He sniffed. "Smith's finished your hidden needles?" She lifted a leather wristguard bristling with 6 tiny bone darts tucked along seam. "Poison on tips. Manticore venom courtesy of Maester Wolken. One scratch makes a kraken flop like trout." Sandor's brow arched. "You're all grown vicious." "I learned from a dog," she answered. Before dawn the party assembled outside the Hunter's Gate. Arya astride her dapple gray mare, Sandor on stranger, Queen-scarred veteran Ser Hallis Malin on black charger, Lady Daisy Mormont towering over all on a shaggy Garen, and 11 silent men chosen from Karstark and Glover ranks, bold but skilled at moving as shadows. Sansa pressed a packet of dried apples into Arya's saddlebag, lingering to embrace her sister once more. The snow around their boots caught tears that neither admitted shedding. Jon clasped Sandor's forearm in warrior's shake. To Dacey he gave a sealed tube of parchment from Lady Lyanna Mormont to deliver to Bear Island's shoreline defenses. At last he raised Longclaw, blade flash catching Dawn's first crimson streak. May the old gods watch your path. The gates groaned wide. The column moved out at a controlled lope, horse's breath steaming clouds. A dozen archers perched along the gatehouse saluted with arrow points. By the time the sun edged over the pines, the riders had vanished into drifting flurries. They kept to deer trails for 2 leagues before striking west across Frozen Peak. At midday they reached a ruin called Slate Watch, abandoned tower overlooking a long inlet where brackish water lapped ice flows. There they halted to reconnoiter. Lady Dacey scaled a broken rampart, spyglass to eye. "Barge line 2 miles south," she reported. 6 low tubs beached on sandbars. For longships from Euron's fleet, black sails with red kraken. She described guard pattern. 20 reavers, half lounging, half setting net posts to catch incoming mackerel shoals. On a rocky knoll, a scorpion stood though crew seemed absent, drinking near driftwood fire. Sandor studied a rough map. Cape Kraken jutted from the coast like a hook. Its tidal island, Saltspeardip, lay a bowshot offshore at high tide, connected by causeway at low. The wildfire casks, rumor said, were stored inside an old lighthouse-turned-armory on the islet's highest rock. Reachers seldom touched during floods. Its footpaths bear wet kelp and slippery basalt. "High tide in 1 hour," Hallis Mullen murmured, sighting sun's angle through thin cloud. "We wait until water covers the flats, then cross by boat." Dacey grinned. "Boat? We are Northmen, swim." Sandor spat. "Dragon's piss, woman. That water's near ice. Warm enough once you're numb." They compromised. Small rowboats hidden by Crannock folk would ferry. Arya and Sandor would board first with 2 Glover axemen. Dacey and Hallis second. The rest last. While Hallis's squad stormed the lighthouse, Arya slipped inside from rear drainage cut to light her stolen wildfire jar, slumping casks and powder stores in green blaze. Sandor would hold outer gate, blocking reinforcements from longships. Sounded easy as stabbing cheese. The boats were indeed waiting, half submerged in reeds at mouth of tributary, their paddles wrapped in wool to muffle splash. One by one they glided onto black water glowing copper beneath a setting sun. Saltspeardip loomed. Wedge of broken shale crowned by crumbling lighthouse, its pyre cage replaced by iron-strapped casks stacked like fat barrels of ale. A skeletal crane arm jutted over the precipice, rope dangling. Reavers had left 6 torch baskets around perimeter, but wind had snuffed half, leaving long shadows. The boats scraped barnacled stone. Sandor leapt out first, water to knee, stranger left on shore earlier. This assault would clamber. Arya sprang onto a slick shelf, gripping a kelp slime chain used to anchor skiffs. The 2 Glover men, Torgon and WLL, followed with axes strapped. Arya motioned, rear fissure by tide pool. They climbed, freezing spray-drenching boots. At lip, Sandor peeked. Courtyard within lighthouse compound. Knee-high wall of mortar where reavers joshed, dice scattering. He ducked. "1 lantern by their dice," he whispered. "Rest of yard dark." Arya slipped bone darts from wrist, dipped one in tiny vial. She angled round coping, hurled. The dart thudded into dice table plank between 2 gamblers. Both stared, slack-jawed. One reached. Tip nicked his knuckle. He cursed. Arya dropped back. Seconds later the poisoned man convulsed, froth at lips, hitting ground thrashing. His partner howled alarm. Torgon vaulted wall, axe whirling. Sandor followed, shield raised. In 3 heartbeats both gamblers bled on slate, one silently, the other sputtering foam. Shouts erupted within lighthouse door. Sandor kicked it open, wood splintering. Inside spiral stair wound upward, narrow. He barreled ahead, sword a spear, Torgon at back. Mid-stair a reaver lunged. Sandor rammed shield into his gut, flicked blade across neck. Blood slicked steps. The corpse thumped down, knocking his mate's feet. Chaos gave Sandor time to ascend. At top landing the chamber opened. a rounded room ringed by arrow-slit windows. Torches flickered in scones. Wildfire casks stacked along outer wall. 2 reavers stood guard but stared gape-mouthed as Arya emerged behind Sandor. Messy braid plastered to forehead, needle and dagger both out. Sandor took the left, Arya danced right. In heartbeat the room fell silent save ragged breath. She pulled Sorfang's baljar from satchel, uncorked. Green fume wafted. "Out!" she hissed to Sandor. They retreated downstairs, Arya trailing glowing dribble along wall, then flicked jar into cask pile. A sickly roar whooshed. Stairwell lit emerald through slits. Pressure boomed. Heat chased them downward. They burst into yard just as outer wall belched green flame skyward. Tower windows vomited scorching wind. Stones cracked with powder pops. Lady Dacey's group had taken courtyard gate, leaving 6 corpses. She gawked at flare. 7 help us. You set the sky on fire. Runs in family, Arya muttered. Move. But now sirens, conches blew by shore. The longship's decks erupted with armed krakens. Hallis pointed at Islet's narrow causeway, half submerged. They'll try to cross at ebb, Sandor surveyed. 40, maybe 50, reavers scrabbling over surf-washed rocks. Some in mail, most shirtless but wild. If they reached the yard, the small force would be overrun. Worse. Wildfire plume leapt higher, embers drifting onto lighthouse crane's rope, fraying fiber. If rope parted, cask still on crane could crash onto courtyard. He bellowed, "Back to boats. We hold jetty and cut them as they land." Dacey agreed, ordering retreat. Glover axemen and Karstark bowmen followed. Hallis and 2 riders kicked over crates of lamp oil at courtyard entrance, then sparked them. Flames licked picket gate. Wine-soaked ropes burned fierce, delaying pursuit. Sandor ushered last man through fissure when a deafening crack split air. Crane arms snapped, sending 2 massive wildfire barrels plummeting. They struck courtyard with thunderous impact. An instant later the world flashed searing green. Shockwave hurled Sandor across slick shelf into tide pool. Water swallowed roar, but heat scalded even through seawater. He surfaced choking, ears ringing. The lighthouse top had vanished. Half the yard now crater of molten stone. A shadow staggering on surviving rampart shrieked ablaze, then toppled into surf, steam rising. Arya crawled beside him, hair smoking. Her cloak had caught, but she'd torn it off. Her cheek bled from shale gash, but she grinned wild. Good fireworks. Beyond, boats already pushed off. Reavers who had reached island reeled from blast. Some ablaze, others diving into Titteline to quench gear. Sandor hauled Arya onto skiff where Hallis steadied, or Dacey shoved off last craft loaded heavy. Arrows hissed from longships. Some set water sizzling, others thunked hull. "Row, you bastards!" Sandor roared, grabbing a spare paddle. The skiff slipped beyond reach as ebb current began recede. Arya knocked arrow from Karstark bow and picked off helmsman on nearest longship. Vessel veered, colliding with second, mast scraping. Glover men cheered. When they reached Marsh Delta, they beached and sprinted to Treeline while explosion aftermath still glimmered green against clouds. Only 2 of their number had fallen, Torgon with scorpion bolt to chest, a Karstark archer lost at lighthouse stairs. Hallis murmured a prayer as bodies were buried shallow under pine shavings. No time for stone cairns. Euron's fleet would retaliate by dawn. Night darkened, moon smothered by soot. They rode northeast, hugging tree shadow, horse hooves muted by snow-soft duff. On ridge they paused to watch far ocean. Flames licked sky where lighthouse once stood. A third longship now burned ruddy, sails aflame. Another wallowed, hull breached. The wildfire stores had done their work. White Harbor would be spared. Arya slumped in saddle, relief and fatigue twining. Sandor nudged stranger close. "Next list entry scratched? Euron's still breathing," she said. "But his teeth are chipped." They pushed on until horses tired, then built lean fires in hollow. Snow fell thicker, hissing on embers. Dacey distributed spiced bear-fat biscuits, insisted sleep in shifts. Sandor sat first watch, sword across knees. Across flame, Arya slept rolled in bare pelt, lips twitching, perhaps dreaming of wolves on battlements again. The hounds studied the night beyond camp, but inside his breast, something uncoiled. Pride, maybe, or purpose. Cersei Lannister tasted copper again, this time not from deliberate cut but from biting her own tongue until it bled. She stood atop the Red Keep's Maiden's Tower balcony, wind whipping golden hair. Far below Blackwater Bay lay calm, but ravens kept arriving with tales of green flame over the north. Qyburn's latest message quavered. Lighthouse destroyed, wildfire lost, 3 ships burnt. Euron enraged, demands recompense. Recompense. She laughed, high and brittle. Her mountain was dead, her kraken thwarted, her witch escaped, and now rumors of Arya Stark leading raids reached every tavern between the Twins and Gulltown. The small folk whispered of a shadow wolf dancing with a dog who killed mountains. They called Arya the ghost of winter's shadow. They called Cersei the lioness losing claws. Each rumor another scratch at pride. She turned from sea. I need a blade they do not expect. Qyburn bowed, robes rustling. There is one project left to test, your grace. The Face Stealer. A gift from Bravosian alchemists seeking license to sell war dyes. Cersei's brow arched. A Face Stealer? A draft that unbinds flesh, molds visage to donor martyr's features. Temporary, painful, deadly if dosage fails, but perfect to send Wolf a message. Who will drink it? Someone with nothing to lose. Footsteps echoed. Ser Lancel, gaunt and hollow-eyed, entered newly sworn of the Faith's penitent guard. Qyburn smiled thin. The 7 pardon no sins, but your queen can. He extended file. Cersei's eyes glittered. Make him the hound he once feared. At dawn, the strike force traversed Last River and skirted Umber's lands. Snow turned to sleet. By midday, they reached White Birch Ford, where pine branches drooped heavy with ice. Carcasses of half-burned sheep littered a pasture, evidence of recent raider sweep. Smoke still curled from farmhouse ruin. Hallis dismounted to inspect tracks. Iron-shod boots, deep. Reavers on foot had fled northwest. The group split, Daisy guiding villagers to Winterfell refuge, while Sandor, Arya, and 4 riders gave chase. They caught the raiders by twilight at Wailing Gorge, a granite rift echoing with wind moans. 6 ironborn survivors huddled around stolen beers, laughing over loot. A toddler's wooden horse, cracked pewter cups, a maiden's braided hair tied in trophy. Sandor's squad surrounded unseen and fell upon them in heartbeat, axes flashing. Arya captured the last, a youth scarcely older than her with dart at throat. Tell Euron who burned his wildfire, she hissed. She drew small carving knife, sliced the braid trophy from his belt, and flung it into abyss. And tell him the North remembers. She let him scramble away bleeding fear. Night brought heavy snow again. They camped under overhang. Arya roasted hare on spit gifted by a grateful farmer. The others talked in low tones of Euron's wrath, but Sandor kept silent, staring into dark. Eventually Arya scooted nearer. You see ghosts, she said. Ghost of a boy burnt by his brother, he muttered. She blew on hot meat, offered chunk. He took bite, chewing. Ghosts keep me company too, she said quietly. I talk to them in sleep. They tell me not to forget but not to drown either. He snorted. They tell me drink more. Drink drowns slower than snowball. Sandor chuckled despite gloom. You talk nonsense. It makes sense in dreams. She poked embers. One dream shows my list empty. I bury it under weirwood. Walk away barefoot. She looked up. Could you do that? Walk without anger. He considered long. Anger's my spine. Strip it and I crawl. Spine can bend into new shapes. She shrugged. But we're not finished yet. No, he agreed. 3 days' ride and they reached Winterfell as fresh flakes drifted lazily. Gate guards hailed them with cheers. Word of wildfire victory had preceded them via Raven. In the hall, Jon embraced each warrior. Maesters bound cuts. Cooks prepared goat stew laced with mead. Yet celebration dimmed when Raven from the south arrived under dark wings. Sansa read scroll before roaring hearth, face blanching. "It's Cersei," she breathed. She claims Sandor murdered Lord Tywin in his bed, accuses Arya of necromancy, demands their heads. She stared at them, voice cracking. "She's named you kinslayers and abominations, offers 100,000 golden dragons bounty." Sandor laughed, harsh. "Gold buys many daggers." Jon's fist clenched. "Let her send them. Winterfell's walls are thick." Arya shook head. "Walls stop blades, not whispers. We move first." She met Sandor's gaze. "South again." He grimaced. "Thought I'd taste fire wine by Yule, not dust and salt." "But we cut the snake at head," she said. "King's Landing." Hallis crossed arms. "Madness. Lannister host still strong. City watch 5,000. "And faceless men," Arya murmured. She touched hidden needle wound on wrist idly. "Cersei may hire them. We know their ways better than her."
Sandor's scoot tightened.
Memories of Bravo's alleyways, of girl in colorless robe learning to breath as nobody. "You think she'll try to match you?" "She'll try. We turn trap." Jon paced before hearth. "I cannot spare full army, but small band might slip via the Bight to Sisterton, then sail under cobble barge flags. If you get inside the city," Sandor finished, "we end the lioness." Sansa's face set, pale but resolute. "Then we send her head to the wall as a new Night's Watch scarecrow." She took Arya's hand. "Bring an end to our father's war." The hall fell silent, only crack of logs. Sandor felt old hate simmering, but behind it a new ember. Wanting to see this war truly ended, to burn root as well as branches. In that moment he understood that this was no longer merely Arya's kill list. It was the ledger of a realm starved by cruelty. He drew Tully ring, set it atop table. "This got us across one river. I'll need a bigger charm for a sea." Sansa smiled thin. "I have a dragon." She produced a silver coin identical to the one Alice Rivers had given Arya. 2 sides, 2 dragons. Sandor frowned. "What's it mean?" "Hope," Arya said softly. He picked coin, turned it in flame glow. "Hope's heavier than anger." He closed fist around it. "Let's see if my spine can learn." 7 nights later, a weather-worn cog named Mole's Penance slipped from Sisterton Harbor at moonrise. Its sail patched, bearing crest of House Burrell but bill of lading forged. Oysters, crabs, and cockles. Its true cargo hid in bilge hold. A wolf, a hound, and 8 silent companions cloaked in seaweed dyed gray. Above deck, only the Burrell captain and 2 deckhands knew. Salt spray coated Sandor's scar, raw but invigorating. He rested against barrel, listening to gulls shriek while Arya crouched at prow, eyes fixed south where starlight touched horizon faintly. "King's Road ends at sea," she said. "Hells begin," Sandor replied. She didn't laugh. "When we step through that gate, I will wear one of their faces again. Maybe a washerwoman, maybe a stable boy. Dogs need no masks." She looked at him, snow shadow eyes reflecting masked lantern flicker. "You have mask enough." She touched flame-puckered cheek lightly. For once he did not flinch. "But I don't see ash now. Only iron." Wind-filled sails. The ship creaked, turning south toward the Bight, beyond to narrow sea and still further to Blackwater. Behind them Winterfell lights dwindled. Ahead, the greatest forge of the 7 kingdoms awaited. The red furnaces of vengeance. Sandor Clegane closed eyes, feeling deck roll, and for first time since boyhood's pyre, the fire inside him felt like something he could steer instead of flee. In that sliver of calm, he thought he heard Gregor's laughter carried away on wind. Then Arya's list rose to drown it. He smiled, teeth bared to salt night. "King's Landing," he whispered. "Time to teach lions how dogs hunt." The prow cut dark water. Far off, a pale comet burned over eastern sky. Omen to some, warning to others, promise to a lone wolf and a battle-scarred hound hurtling toward fate measured in sharpened steel and shattered crowns. The voyage south began in brittle starlight. The sky washed so clean of cloud that every constellation seemed close enough to hook with a spear. Mole's pennants creaked under a raw northern wind, prow carving white slivers off inky swells. The sea smelled of iron and rotten kelp. Above the mainmast a new banner fluttered, white crab on emerald field, borrowed from House Burrell to disguise her purpose. Yet the crew were half hillmen, half bear islanders, sworn to Lyanna's blunt promise. Bring the wolf and the hound to the lion's den, or do not bother swimming home. Sandor Clegane took the night deck watch. Spray stung his healed burns, but cold kept him sharp. He remembered sailing once before, King's Landing to Dragonstone with Joffrey whimpering at every tilt. But this journey rode a fiercer tide, and the boy king was long dead. A different monarch commanded the waves now, vengeance wearing a girl's face. Arya stood at the bow with wind plucking stray hairs across her eyes. She'd cut it shorter, rough fringe just above brow, to fit beneath the house servant's coif she would wear in the city. Needle hung at her spine inside a reed case, the bone darts hidden in seam of her patched doublet. Sandor could smell tallow and pennyroyal, oils rubbed into leather to keep the salt out, and beneath, the faint copper tang of dried wildfire fumes that clung to her clothes as if they, too, hunted south. She kept staring at the horizon, jaws working as if chewing a thought. Finally she murmured without turning, "When you killed my brother, did you mourn?" Sandor blinked salt from eyes. "Did I kill him? Or did I bury him?" "Both," he exhaled. "I mourned what he'd taken from me. Nothing more." She nodded slowly. "When Cersei falls, I wonder what mourners will become. Not many will shed tears for a lioness." "No," she said, voice soft, "but someone always weeps, even if only ghosts." She looked back at him. Moonlight put silver in her irises, wolf eyes in winter mask. "Do you dream of ghosts, Sandor?" He thought of a boy screaming as fire devoured his dollhouse dreams. Thought of Sansa's pale hands clutching his cloak that night of Blackwater. Thought of Gregor gurgling under spear of dragonglass. "I dream of dogs biting throats. I wake before I see whose." She accepted that answer with a quiet hum and returned to the dark water. Days stretched lean and quick, filled with gull cries and salt-caked ropes. Hallis Malin drilled the infiltrators on deck every dawn. Silent hand signals, knife throws into rope dummies, rapid knotwork for scaling walls. Daisy Mormont sparred with Sandor each dusk, massive great axe against his long sword, the exchange a thunder of wood on steel that left planks scarred. Arya joined often, flipping between them like a darting swallow. She refused rest until arms quivered, then dove into the galley to help the maester cook brew seaweed pottage laced with pepper that burned tongues awake. On the fifth night, lightning sheeted purple on distant horizon. The captain, a weathered man with braids knitted by seashells, studied color of bolts and declared a summer storm chasing them. He ordered canvas reefed. The cog heeled, wind shrieking through rigging. Rain slashed sideways, drumming hatch covers, but crew worked lines with grim ease. Sandor tied himself to a stanchion, shielding Arya as a wave smashed over rail, scattering barrels. She laughed, wild, rain plastering her fringe. "Feels like we ride a dragon's wings," she shouted. "Dragon shit salt," he roared back. They climbed out next morning to find storm spent and air heavy, sun red through haze. Blackwater Bay awaited beyond a final green headland. King's Landing rose beyond like a scorched beehive, sprawl of dirty tile roofs and soot-stained towers. The sept of the dragon pit squatted ruined on Rhaenys' hill. The Red Keep crouched higher, its new scorpion engines glinting in dawn. From this angle Sandor spotted the repaired outer wall where wildfire had erupted 3 years earlier. The bay below bustled with war galleys, but new quarantine checkpoints slowed cargo. That worked to Mole's penance's favor. Dozens of trade vessels queued to unload. Their ship would blend. Arya watched cityscape with expression unreadable. "Home and Hunter," she whispered to herself, then turned to Hallis with plan. "Smuggler's Row. We dock by midday. Sandor, Daisy, and I disembark with fish crates. The rest wait for night. If we aren't back in 2 days, sail for Dragonstone. They'll need the news." Captain grunted assent. Dockmasterl grease palms for crab crates. Crab tastes richer than gold these days. They hid weapons under burlap sacks soaked in brine. Arya wore rough-spun dress, hair in tight coils, face smudged with ash to dull the stark features. Sandor slung crate across back. Inside, his sword lay disassembled around smoked cod. He fixed burlap hood low and practiced limp of an old deckhand. Daisy carried barrel over shoulder, easy as hen's egg. The harbor stank of tar, dung, and rotten citrus.
Dockverkers skjuted over gull kakofoni.
Gold cloaks prowled every gangway, faces sallow from bribes taken. They waved pennants through after captain pressed thin sliver of jade into sergeant's palm. Crates clattered onto jetty. Arya whispered low Valyrian the NKS to deckhands and led companions toward fishmonger's row, keeping heads bowed. They joined throng of porters passing under Sea Dragon Gate, circumventing customs yard by slipping between reeking eel stalls. Sandor thanked his height for blocking view of Daisy's too noble posture. Once in cramped alley behind saltworks they paused. Arya whistled a tune low, the Bravosi Free City call taught by faceless tutors. An urchin popped from barrel, eyes huge. He took one look at her, nodded, and scuttled off. Messenger for kindly man in exile, she explained. He'll secure our safe house. Sandor snorted. How many faces know your signals? Enough to blur the hound's teeth. She gave him half-smile. They followed labyrinth of alleys until arriving at an abandoned candlemaker's shop. Shutters broken. Closed for plague, chalked on door. Arya tapped twice, thrice, paused once. Inside, a gaunt woman greeted them. She smelled of cloves. Her face looked wrong, as though rewoven recently. Scars around Erline still pink. Come, she said in accent of Stormlands. The many-faced God welcomes all. She led them to cellar brimming with candles stacked like honeycomb. She snapped flint. A single blue flame revealed small chamber beyond hidden panel. 2 cots, wash basin, shelf of powdered pigments and wax noses. I am Lana, she said. No one sees this face yet, so it's safe. What do you need? Path to Red Keep, Arya said. Faces to wear, keys to doors. And proof that the queen's poison comes from her own vines. Lana frowned. The House of Black and White forbids direct meddling in wars of kingdoms. But coin was paid for Lioness once before, Balerian's contract, you recall. It failed. This contract we sign ourselves, Arya answered. No coin, only debts of blood. The woman considered. A debt uncollected breeds interest. Perhaps the god smiles. She produced 2 small stoppered phials. Essence of Shadow Night. 1 drop renders slumber deeper than winter. 2 stops heart. You'll need vantage. Mager's holdfast drains still unguarded? Arya asked. Rats no. Lana turned to Sandor. And you, dog, what mask do you demand? Sandor bared teeth. I need none. I want them to know which cur bit. The candlemaker chuckled. Brave or foolish, but perhaps your burnt visage already counts as borrowed skin. She handed him a small bundle. Black velvet half-mask embroidered with crimson streaks. Wear this until moment matters, then tear away. That evening they left safe house dressed as Septon pilgrims. Daisy remained behind to gather swords delivered by smuggler rowboat. She'd lead night assault on Gate of the Gods once signal lit. Hallis oversaw infiltration of tower granaries where wildfire casks might be stockpiled again. But the heart of heart, Arya and Sandor walked side by side through city dusk toward the Red Keep. They joined a procession of penitents climbing Visenya's hill, candles sheltered in clay horns. The faith militant patrolled square. Tension crackled. Since Sparrow uprising, the queen kept uneasy truce with faith. But rumor said new High Septon plotted to crown her bastard by holy decree. Politics made every knee bend worried. At foot of Keep's eastern wall, torchlit courtyard bustled with servants delivering casks of arbor gold for upcoming royal feast. The queen intended to celebrate end of Northern Rebellion publicly. Arya spotted opportunity. Porter's gate open, guards distracted by cart stuck wheel-deep in mud. She nudged Sandor. They blended with scullions rushing to aid. Sandor's strength freed cart. Grateful guard waved them through to kitchens. Inside the keep, memories flooded Sandor. Smell of lemon cakes and old blood, cries of servants whipped, refrain of king's guard oaths twisted by cruelty. He felt ghost of Joffrey's laughter, flinched at phantom of wildfire smoke. He shook head to clear. Kitchen corridors stank of onions. Arya disappeared into pantry, emerging as scullery girl, apron smudged. She pushed tray of trenchers past butchers. Sandor shadowed her, whispering for next turn. At servant's stare they parted. Arya up toward Queen's Solar, Sandor to armory to procure sword reacquisition. He found weapons room guarded by 2 Lannister men. They recognized burnt face instantly, eyes widening. One open mouth. Sandor slammed pommel into jaw, then drove knee into other's groin. He seized long axe pitched into throat. Blood sprayed across rack. He retrieved bastard sword, less weight than his old one but balance good. Then donned half-mask. Darkness cut peripheral vision yet gave anonymity. He crept along corridor toward inner keep. Bells told 9th hour. Feast guests would soon gather. He hoped Arya already within walls. Arya reached Queen's apartments via narrow chimney corridor, emerging into linen closet behind tapestry. Through slit she watched Cersei pace before mirror, Qyburn adjusting her jeweled gorget. The Queen's eyes glittered tired rage, skin pale. A younger knight knelt, face hidden by thick cowl. Cersei stroked his head almost tenderly. Arya stiffened, hair pale straw, but height near Sandor's. Cersei said, "Remember, speak only when asked, snarl when defied." She poured black draught into chalice, handed to knight. "Drink." He raised cup with trembling hands. For moment Arya caught glimpse of face. Ser Lancel, thin and haunted. He drank, shuddered. Qyburn chanted low verse. Flesh rippled, bones cracked. Skin sagged then swelled, jaw elongating. Arya clamped hand on mouth to stifle gasp. Before her eyes Lancel's features morphed into rough mimic of Sandor's pre-burn visage. Younger, handsomer, but undeniably Clegane. Hair darkened, scars formed randomly. The face stealer. Cersei clapped hands delighted. "My hound returns." She beckoned Gold Cloak.
Escorte Ser Lancel no Ser Malgrim Clegane.
To throne dais when feast begins. He will confess his betrayal of the Starks and show all of Westeros the wolf girl's lies. Arya's blood iced. Cersei planned to parade false Hound, maybe execute or blame him for Tywin's murder, forging story to snare true Sandor and her. She slid back, heart hammering. She had to warn him. She retraced chimney but guard now stationed at base. She chose bold path. Walked out closet garbed as linen maid, balancing basket. Gold Cloak barely glanced. She hurried down spiral across foyer to armory wing and collided with Sandor turning corner, mask off, blade wet. He stared. "You look spooked, girl. They made a copy of you," she hissed. Rapidly she explained potion, Lancel's transformation, Queen's plot. Sandor's lip curled. "Fake dog? Piss on that." Footsteps thundered. Regiments converging toward feast hall. Horns announced guests. Sandor grabbed her elbow, ducked into alcove. "We expose impostor in front of court," he said. "Kill lioness amidst chaos." He rummaged belt, found crimson wax packet. Sleep draft. Slip this in Queen's cup. Easier to stage throat cut after nod. Arya's eyes shone. Or let her collapse. Blame poison within her walls. Either way she loses grip. She glanced corridor. Feast begins now. They took servants' stairs again, emerging in great hall gallery. Gilded chandeliers dripped beeswax. Nobles filled benches. Tyrell cousins, red wine envoys, Iron Bank legate. Even Edric Storm under Baratheon banner rumored. Cersei stood in lion-trimmed gown, laughter brittle as glass. Beside her on lower step knelt Malgrim. False Sandor, shackled, head bowed, hair greasy. The resemblance stunned. Courtiers murmured. Cersei raised goblet. "Here stands traitor reborn. My loyal dog returns to heel. He confesses crimes," she signaled night. Malgrim rose, voice gravelly imitation. I butchered the hand. I sold the Stark children to killers. I burned villages for coin. Gasped. Arya ground teeth. Lies painting them monsters. Cersei smiled. Such sin begs cleansing. Tonight he shall face Queen's justice. The Hound against the mountain's shade. Door flung wide. Lumbering figure in patchwork plate entered. Robert Strong? No, a lesser monster, bigger than man but not her brother. Yet crowd roared. Dual spectacle to entertain. Kill imposter publicly. Sandor whispered. Time to unmask wolf and dog. He pushed through tapestry onto balcony. Bellowed. Liar queen. True hound stands here. Hall fell silent as grave. All eyes shot upward. Torches flickered. Sandor flung velvet mask aside. Scarred face bared. Shock rippled. Some shrieked. Fake hound stared dumbstruck. Transformation brew faltered. His features mottled. Cersei's goblet trembled. Archers, she screamed. Kill the imposter. Arya had already dropped to table, scattering trenchers. She slid under benches, rolling toward dais. In confusion, guards loosed arrows at balcony. Sandor ducked behind pillar. Fake mountain lumbered forward, swinging maul at vanished target. Cersei stumbled back, nearly upsetting Chalice. Arya popped up behind dais, flicked droplet of Shadow Knight into goblet, then darted beneath Queen's train unseen. Sandor leapt from balcony onto chandelier chain, swung, dropped onto table showering dishes. He advanced on fake hound. Court cleared, nobles screaming. Lannister guards charged, but Daisy Mormont burst from kitchen arch hacksawing path. Bear Islanders behind. Sandor faced his mimic. Burn looks better on me, he growled. Malgrim's features wavered, melting like wax. He howled in pain, swung sword. Sandor parried, their blades clashing above roast boar. Sandor used rage, reel old driving imposter back, each clang punctuated by shrieks and clatter. Cersei regained poise, shouted for Queensguard, but Ser Boros and Ser Blunt hesitated amid chaos. She raised goblet to rally courage, drained half. Arya watched from floor gap. Seconds later, Queen's eyes widened. Chalice slipped, wine splattering gown. She swayed, grasping thrown arm. Maester Pycelle tottered to aid. She clawed at him, but knees buckled. The hall fell hush as she slumped unconscious upon gilded step. Panic erupted. Some thought assassination, others divine judgment. High Septon raised 7-point star, proclaiming omen. Faith militant seized moment, chanting. Malgrim faltered at sight of collapsed queen. Sandor took opening, shield rim to chin, sword thrust to gut. Potion warping flesh reversed. Lancel's true face surfaced, eyes pleading. Sandor recognized him, sneered. Die wearing own face cowered. He twisted blade. Lancel gurgled, sagged dead. Fake mountain roared, but Daisy's great axe cleaved knee. Hallis finished with spear through visor. Arya leapt dais, stood before throne. She lifted goblet, poured remaining wine onto marble. The North remembers, she shouted. Echo thundered. City Watch burst in, confused. Faith militants pressed forward to seize Queen's body, claiming protective custody. Mormont warriors blocked. Sandor sheathed bloody sword, mounted dais beside Arya. He scanned hall, chaos but winnable. We leave, girl. She shook head. Too many paths open. We choose the one they fear most. She stepped to throne, placed slim hand on armrest. Gasped. She didn't sit, just touched, then turned. This chair waits for someone worthy. Until then, lions cannot chain wolves. She tossed chalice into crowd. It clanged, spilling last drops. She sleeps, not dead. But when she wakes, the realm will question her every tale. She met Sandor's gaze. Truth's sharper than needle. Guards hesitated. Kill children of Ned Stark in front of Faith? Risk uprising? Hallis barked for retreat. Bear Islanders hoisted unconscious Queen onto litter at Faith's insistence. In melee swirl, Arya and Sandor slipped side corridor, guided by Lana in fresh face of Pageboy. They exited through Sally Port before Dragonskull Cellars. Moon hung low over Blackwater as they crossed Mudyard, bells clanging alarm across city. Ships in harbor lit beacon fires. Street mobs gathered chanting, "Wolf! Queen Witch!" Some hurled stones at red banners. Riot seeds germinated. Lana led them to wine cellar beneath tavern. Their Dacey's group gathered, bloodied but laughing. "Seven hells?" Dacey roared, clapping Sandor's back. "You toppled a queen with goblet. Just put her to bed," Arya said. Hallis pointed to window, smoke columns rising from Flea Bottom. City's tearing itself. He eyed Arya. "What's next, my lady?" "Finish her." Arya wiped smear from cheek. "Next, we free the realm of her claws, but not by assassination. Let her live to stand trial before every house she wronged. Let truth hang her." She looked to Sandor. "But first, we must ride to Dragonstone, a silver which waits. Dragons may reawaken, and we need their fire to forge peace." Sandor snorted. "I prefer steel walls to scaly wings." "You prefer bite," she replied. "Dragons bite bigger." He chuckled. "Fine, but the dog chooses his own collar." Outside tavern, riot horns blared, gods would raven screaming. The Iron Throne sat forsaken while Queen lay drugged, her lie exposed, her newest monster corpse on banquet floor, and a girl who'd left Winterfell as pup strode into night, a hound at heel, carrying a list nearly empty and a future she had not dared imagine. In distant east of Bay, Mole's pennants hoisted sail beneath comet glow, waiting for her passengers. The tide turned, washing fresh along shores where wildfire once burned. Amid its hiss, the realm seemed to breathe a ragged, hopeful breath, one drawn not in fear of lions, but in wonder at wolves who had learned to hunt daylight.